Recorded Books presents A Man with a Past by Mary Connealy, narrated by Barbara Mcculloh. Chapter 1. August, 1870, Independence, Missouri. When a man grows up in wild country, hunting food, eyes wide open for trouble, he knows when he's being watched. And that stranger back of him weren't out looking for a place to have a Sunday picnic. Falcon had fought shy of a dozen towns and wanted no part of Independence, Missouri, excepting he didn't know where in tarnation he was going, and to his understanding, this was his last chance to figure it out. So he went riding right smack into that beehive of a town on his old raw-boned mule to find out how to get to Wyoming, and a man commenced to following. For a lot of people, it might be right hard to spot a single man on these crowded streets full of shops and freight wagons. Everywhere Falcon turned, people swarmed. But staying alive wasn't easy in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Tennessee, where a man could find a way to die near every time he turned around. And yet here Falcon stood, as tall and raw-boned as his mule, proving he was a tough, savvy man, and he didn't intend to trust luck with that man on his tail. He intended to trust skill. He'd said a word or two here and there as he traveled, and more often just a word, not two, and found out how to go along the Oregon Trail. Funny how much a man could learn by listening. He didn't want to ask a lot of questions, for fear that man a-dogging him might come along wanting to know what Falcon had been talking about. The same men who went to yammering about the Oregon Trail would be just as likely to shout out every word Falcon had said. So he said mostly nothing. But he'd learned enough to find which way the trail went. As he understood it, Wyoming was 2 or 3 states along it to the northwest. Mighty big states. Bear Claw Pass was the town he was looking for, and it was right on the trail, too. If he just followed the path, well marked, so they said, he'd find what he was looking for. But before he showed himself there, Falcon wanted some answers. A lawyer who held information for him about an inheritance was in Casper, the first town east of Bear Claw Pass. The sun was setting on a long August day when Falcon headed out of Independence. He planned on sleeping at a campfire tonight, as he'd done every night. He'd heard tell of such as a hotel, but he couldn't figure why a man would pay for a roof when he could have the stars for free. The crowd thinned as he edged out of that crazy, loud town. The closest he'd come to a town before, not counting the ones he'd avoided on his way out here, was Chickahoochee Cove, back home. And he didn't go there, except if he had trading to do, that the traveling peddler couldn't handle. That had only happened a few times in his life. As he left that wild herd of people behind, the man following him dropped back and back and back. And when the town got really thinned out, that's when Falcon spotted the second man. The other lagged farther back. Falcon only spotted him because the buildings were sparse on the edge of town. One man, on foot. Falcon might have just braced him and told him to fight or run. But 2 was a more concerning business, and 2 men riding. Checking his saddlebags, he was able to sneak a good look at both men. Well armed, not tenderfeet. Falcon would beat him, but it wouldn't be easy, and tough as he was, those 2 men could get lucky. Leastways, now he knew what he was up against. There were bluffs outside of Independence. They weren't any match for the Blue Ridge Mountains back home, but hills, sure enough, and fully wooded. And these humble Missouri woods and hills called to him as if they were his natural home, land he could vanish into. A lot better to take these varmints on here than on the plains he'd ridden across coming west. Of
Sample complete. Ready to continue?